Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Reading Rule, y'all. This is our third video in our 4-part deep dive into Melissa Wyatt's Funny How Things Change. In this video, I'm going to talk about my reactions to the book as a rural reader. So let's dive in, shall we? First of all, this is one of the best books I've ever read. And I was devastated to see that the book that I bought was one that was removed from a library because, quote, it's worn. It wasn't. Damaged. It wasn't. Out of date. I think it's timeless or no longer needed. And that part breaks my heart. I have half a mind to send it back to Sparrows Point High Library with a note telling them that they need to put it back on their shelves. Because I love the way Wyatt writes. It's both direct and lovely. She captures a quiet and firm determination in Remy and his dad that reminds me of my grandpa and great uncles. I also felt like I was at home in the speech of the characters, which for me authentically depicted the cadence and charm of Appalachian English without rendering it a caricature. And every time I open it, I discover something new, something I missed on my first reading, and those are the best books when you can come back to them over and over again and still learn something new. It's so good, seriously. Here are some of my favorite lines. Having just enough ought to be enough to make anyone happy. Page 126. This is definitely the philosophy I grew up with. When I read this, I wrote, yes, exclamation point in the margins. Another one that was really good, that reaching ache you sometimes heard in bluegrass music that had come to the mountains and the folk songs of the first settlers, an inheritance that traveled down over him and twisted itself around his heart. I just felt like that was like one of the best descriptions of bluegrass music I've ever read. And I love bluegrass. And so the way that she connects place and time and people in this quote and over and over and over again in the book is just, it's so well done and so good. Now this one really made me laugh. You're still working at the gas station? Miss Carter asked, the way she might have asked him if he was cleaning outhouses for Satan. There are so many more insightful and beautifully written lines. And in particular, there's a really, really great section where locals are telling stereotypical jokes about themselves and their town. And it's so, so well done. But I'll stop there and just hope that you pick it up for yourselves. There's a lot of complex emotions that come along with being an out-migrant. Guilt, feeling like you really have no right to continue to claim a rural identity because you don't live there anymore, even though you don't feel at home or like you belong in the suburbs or city either. And Wyatt does such an excellent job of highlighting the complexities of staying or going in this book that honestly, it kind of knocked the wind out of me a little bit. Funny How Things Change depicts a number of different identities and reasons for staying or going that simultaneously connect to dominant narratives of leaving to be somebody while also disrupting them. It seems like it's not the staying or going that's the issue, but the why of it all. Remy decides to go, has his reasons. His dad respects those reasons, but he comes to realize that his reasons are the wrong ones and that he really needs to stay. But who Lisa is and wants to be couldn't be supported if she stayed in Dwyer, much like Remy's mom, so she kind of has to leave in order to be herself. After all, there's no place of higher education in Dwyer, or most rural towns for that matter, so she has to leave. Dana is an outsider, but is able to appreciate Dwyer and the mountains in a way that surprises Remy and even takes a more appreciative view of them than Lisa does at times, even though Lisa's from there. Miss Carter, Remy's teacher, stresses the importance of leaving because she left, but she also returned to teach in the town. And in the midst of all this, there are interconnections related to class that are important to discuss and make this such an excellent book to read with students in order to discuss how social class shapes our experiences in the world, which I feel like isn't done enough in secondary ELA. Remy says that sometimes just loving a place wasn't enough to justify living there. Sometimes, even though you love a place, you have to leave it. My family left East Tennessee because they were starving. And some of them have managed to buy land and build closer to where they were from because they've missed it. They made a home in a different state where the trees grew in clumps and they spent most of their time inside a factory. Sometimes when you love a place, there is an opportunity to stay, but it means giving up something or someone else that you want. Sometimes leaving is your choice and sometimes it ain't. And it's always more complicated than we make it out to be. And I think that's one of the most powerful things about Wyatt's book. She somehow manages to show all of these various complexities in just shy of 200 pages. Well, hopefully that gives you just even an inkling of how amazing this book is and encourages you to pick it up, put it in your classroom library, and or teach it as a mirror or window for your students. That's it for this time. Next week, it'll be another twofer with teaching ideas for Funny How Things Change and another author talk with Melissa Wyatt, dropping on Tuesday. We had such a wonderful conversation, and I hope y'all stay tuned. Until then, y'all come back now, would ya?